So there's so many different things to cover with you, Andrew, about your life and that I'm aware of since we've been friends for such a long time. But one thing that I wanted to talk and see if you had some interest to talk about was you're a rapper and you've been involved in hip hop for like a really long time. And I know that you go by the name the Supervisor, which I think is awesome. I think that's such a great name. I always have. And can you tell us a little bit about how you got into rap and hip hop? And also, if you can talk a little tiny bit about, what's how you got into, actually doing rap yourself and all of that type of stuff. So
Sure. Yeah, man. I mean, I think growing up in Cambridge at the time that I grew up in, it was an interesting time. It was almost like there was like this incredible like resurgence within the youth for all the elements of hip hop, right? Where at one point, like, rap had become like the main thing, right? And everything else had been kind of eclipsed by that, the DJing, the graffiti writing, the breakdancing. And when I was coming up, there was a whole lot of graffiti writers and a lot of people emceeing. And a couple of my closest friends, guys who I've already mentioned actually in this interview, like my man E Nice, Wally Sparks, my brother Dro, these dudes were already rapping in like 4th, 5th grade.
Oh, okay.
Right? Doing talent shows and stuff like that. And I was like aware of them. You know what I mean? I was aware of them. I knew Dro from kindergarten, but we weren't really hanging out anymore at that point. But 7th, 8th grade comes along and I start hanging out with these guys more. And I'm like, wow, these guys are really good. It's like incredible how good they are. And of course, like, I was already saturated with hip hop. You know what I mean? Everywhere you went, like there it was. And it was like such an amazing time for hip hop. Like you couldn't avoid some of these records, how good they were. Biggie's first album, Nas' first album, his second album, right? It was written, it was huge. Redman was huge. Mobb Deep was huge. And then of course Wu-Tang, right? It was like, it was everywhere. Like if once you heard it and it got into your bones, like it was just in there, and so I was a fan, first and foremost. And then I was hanging around with guys who were really good at it. And so I would hang out with them, kick it, and like eventually it just permeated me, to the point where I was like, okay, now I'm writing rhymes. Now I'm writing rhymes up here, and now I'm putting them down on paper and trying to figure out. I didn't have a natural talent for it at all. I didn't have like rhythm or cadence. I had to like learn how to do it. And I remember these dudes looking at me like, yo, you wrote like an ill rhyme, but you can't say it at all.
That's so interesting. You've never told, of all the years we've been friends, I've never heard this story
and
before.
They were already like just naturally, like Wally was just so incredible freestyler, battler, rhyme writer, you know what I mean? Just like so full of personality. Like just everyone knew him, one of the funniest dudes, and just like, so he had it naturally, you know what I mean? Anything he wrote, like it was going to turn into a dope rhyme, I think Dro had to work a little bit harder, but he always had an amazing voice. And then my man E Nice just had such precision with it. And then as we got older and we started hanging out with more people outside of our neighborhood, dudes from Coast, which is a neighborhood in Cambridge, dudes from Port, my man O, and my man Glizzy, rest in peace. And then in Coast, my man Kiki, K to I, who once I met K to I and I started hearing him rhyme, it was just like, this is like mind blowing, like what an incredible natural talent he had, unlike anyone else. For those of you who are familiar with him and his more recent records, like he's just wild. And so I just hung around with these dudes and I just kept going. And eventually I started getting good. And I think that, one thing that I've always had that I have with the martial arts and I have it here is like when I set myself to something, I keep doing it consistently, even if I'm not very good at it. I'm just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And so here we are today,
What do you find is the most challenging part of being a rapper?
Putting out records.
Okay, can you say more about that?
Just, like once you've been doing this for a long time, like we were talking about this yesterday, actually, I can go all the way back to, sitting on Wally's porch with recording into a karaoke machine.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? That's how far back we go. And so like being that I spent so many years just getting up with dudes and that's what we would do. Like if we were outside, we were outside. getting in trouble. But if we were inside, like we were writing. You were sitting down, you were writing, you were freestyling, you were making beats, you're doing whatever. So now it's just like making the music is nothing. This is natural, you know. Just the same way when you train yourself with martial arts, like you're training so that when it pops off, it's right there for you. You don't have to think about it. Oh, okay, now maybe it's time for the jump kick. Like it's just there. So
like muscle memory.
Exactly, it's muscle memory. So if I sit down if dudes are like, okay, time to make some music, then it's like that. And for the most part, it comes out really good. Well, but then when it comes to choosing your artwork, to figuring out if you want to do physical copies, to getting it up online, to promoting the music, that stuff, it doesn't come naturally to me, nor does it come naturally, I think, to anyone in my crew.
Oh, okay.
Because all we're used to, you know, and we were at a funny era there too. Like a lot of my guys weren't on the internet like that. We were always a step behind all this internet shit. Because that was nerd shit, and we were in the streets. You know what I mean?
Right.
Up, like we were outside with it.
You might not even had a computer.
So when dudes were getting online and sharing their stuff on forums and doing stuff like that, we were outside with slim case CDs going hand to hand still. In the barbershops, outside the shows, like we were still on that hand to hand shit.
No kidding.
Right. So we basically missed a particular bus. Right? If we had been a little more savvy to that and we're putting out the music that we were putting out on the internet and having a wider audience, and we had been on that early, then like we may have seen a different kind of success. But we didn't. And we weren't, you know.
So it's really like all that different parts of the production to actually get a product from when it's recorded to all packaged up and then marketed and all the rest of it.
To selling it.
Selling it.
You know, to make the jump to selling it. That's it's nothing to make music. That's the fun part, you know, and I think that's a little bit of a difficulty that me and the entire crew have had. It's like when we get up, it's like our natural inclination is just to make music. But at a certain point, you got to say, what the fuck am I doing with this music? What am I going to do with it? And then you got to make the decision as to what you're going to do and how hard you're going to push it, you know, and to keep the focus and enthusiasm for something that doesn't come natural to you. You know, that's the challenging part.
I should have, I think, and that's okay. I should have started this conversation, this part of our conversation with, because you named off some legendary rappers already.
Like who were influences?
Yeah. But bro, like who was do you remember what like was the first rap that you heard that you were like, whoa, like this is amazing? I know that's probably like a super, super long time ago, but.
Yeah. I definitely remember Tribe Called Quest, the Low End Theory, right? Those songs like The Scenario.
Yeah.
I used to hang out with this kid named Jed, who lived like up on the other side of Mass Ave from me. Like my crib was on a side street between Mass Ave and Ringe Ave, and he was on a side street between Mass Ave and Davis Square.
Oh, okay.
Right. And again, another one, right? His grandparents owned this amazing house. And then his parents lived there and he lived there with his sister, right? It was an amazing big house, still in Cambridge. Pretty sure they don't have that anymore. But anyway, we'd be over there and he had a nice backyard and we'd be playing kickball and shit. And he had a zip line. So we were out there. I mean, it was awesome. We were out there playing around. And there was this dude who lived in a triple decker right next door. And he would always, a young guy, probably in his early 20s, he lived there with his girlfriend. And he was always bumping hip hop. And he was cool. He would say, what's up to us? Hey, what's up, kid? What's going on? And so we would talk to him, and Jed talked him into making us a mixtape. And he made a mixtape, and he actually went ahead and blanked out the swears, right? He did this like with Jed's parents' permission, like, hey, I want to give him this. But so he found like clean versions where he would blank out the swears. And on this tape, it was Gangstar, Das Effects, Arrested Development, and just a lot of crazy stuff. I remember Don't Curse by Heavy D was on there. So I got exposed to a lot, and I would play that tape all the time. I had a copy, and I must have been in third grade.
Wow. Okay.
You know, so I'm like a 9-year-old, and that's how I really got into it.
Because you and I are quite a difference in age, and I know, and you know, we've talked about that. I grew up outside of Queens, and that.
For sure.
I remember for myself, the first rap record that I was really exposed to, that I could think of. I mean, Run DMC was getting big because the 80s and MTV was really pushing them. And I loved them.
And the
I thought they were
Aerosmith
great.
song, right? I mean, that was ubiquitous everywhere.
It was almost unavoidable.
You couldn't, yeah.
But then I ended up hearing "Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back" by Public
Sure,
Enemy, and
yeah.
I was like, whoa! And they were also from New York, so it was like there was some buzz. People I knew them.
Word.
So it was like one of those things that I was like, wow, like this isn't like laughing and funny. Like this is like actually like mega serious, and like it's like
mega serious.
Yeah. And then, you know, I was also around, I grew up very close to where LL Cool J grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So his like bad was like enormous.
I'm
like
sure.
I knew about that too and stuff. And then the Beastie Boys were also kind of big too in their own right, which nobody knew what to make of that yet. So, so that was its own thing. But I love what you brought up too, because, you know, as you know, I'm a musician also, but I've never been into rapping myself, but I've tried to see live rap. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about if you remember, like, do you remember at all, like, was there ever like a first show that you saw like professional rappers rapping at that you were like, whoa, this is amazing?
So, you know, being a kid, like you can't get into any of the good shows around here, right? Like, there was such an amazing scene, but it was like basically like at the Western Front. It was around Central Square, right? So you got the Middle East, you had the Western Front, and then in Austin you had a couple of spots. But you know, Austin's more Austin Rock City, but there was still like. So anyway, I couldn't get into any of those places. But the first time when I remember, I was like, "Oh, this is like really something serious." Was it was an in-store performance at Tower Records in Harvard Square. It was Mr. Liff. Local legend and acrobatic, right, performing, and there wasn't even a stage. They were just there, like performing, like just on the floor. And I went to that. I knew every one of these songs because we would listen to 88.9 all the time, and that, you know, that's where they were playing this stuff. And I was making my little mixtapes, right, recording the stuff that was getting played on the radio at night. And so I knew every word, and I was just like, this is crazy. I left, like, I remember the energy that I left with was just insane. And I knew, like, all right. I think that actually took me a whole step. Just that one day took me a whole step further in that direction.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how did you come up with the Supervisor?
Man.
I'm sure that's a story by right itself, right?
I used to rap under my graffiti name. And then, you know, me and E-Nice worked at Blockbuster in Fresh Pond. And actually, Wally worked there for a little while too. But, you know, me and E were like the first ones to get the job. Actually, my man Matt from West Cambridge had the job too, but then he left. So it was me and E. And then from there, like a few more people got jobs there. And then like the whole hood worked at this Blockbuster. And there was so much criminality going on.
I bet.
At the shopping center. We were just completely up to no good, you know? And I was thinking about it and I was like, yo, I want to like tell like these stories, you know? Like there's a lot of rap music made about like crime. Right, it's like a fucking element, right? Crime is like its own genre of rap, right? But it's like no one was really rapping about this small time hustle, scamming kind of stuff. And I was like, so that's how I came up with the Supervisor. I was like, I'm gonna write something from the perspective of the Supervisor. This is the guy who runs all these games. I'm gonna tell these stories, right? So it came up as like a concept for like a song, and then it came as a concept for like a project. Mixtape, and then I was like, that's just me.
And all of your music under the Supervisor is all like it's on. I know it's on YouTube because I watch it all the time and listen all the time. Where else could people find your music?
Yeah, you can just go ahead and Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. You know, just put in the Supervisor. But I think what I've been working on more recently, and you can still find this by putting in the Supervisor is the Hairline Brothers. Yeah,
can you talk more about that? Because I love that stuff too.
That's my brother, Northside Dro. You know, like I mentioned, me and him have known each other since kindergarten, and we've just been making music for so long. It was you know, probably a decade ago that we made a couple of songs where we just went ignorant on it. You know, like not super serious. And I was like, yo, we should come up with a crew. We should be the Hairline Brothers. At that point, he still had a hairline. My hairline was receding. He no longer possesses a hairline. But I was like, yo, what do you think, man? Because we would always going back and forth and talking shit about that, you know. And it just stuck. You know, it was like catchy. And then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, there's a lot of different directions you can go in with this, you know, because it's relatable. Everyone either has a hairline or used to have a hairline, you know. So like,
we're getting older.
Yeah, and it just became this thing where like for the two of us, like it was like a different genre of music that we made was hairline, right? And just so many good songs that we had done together. All right, let's go. Let's put out a project. Let's get this hairline album out. And then we started narrowing it down even more. Okay, but like within the hairline genre for us, there's multiple different sounds that we do. Okay, so let's put out projects under each of those sounds. So now we put out our first one, The Restoration Process, which did really well and got really well received by a lot of, you know, fans and a lot of DJs, got a lot of DJ play. And now we're working on our next project, which is going to be called Heritage. And then we got another one in the works that hopefully will be coming out in the spring or summer with a totally different sound. So we're trying to come at, you know, we have the same hairline formula. The follicle fuel is there, right?
That's awesome.
but we're going to come with different flavors.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Now, just to put this out there, because I think I can sort of meld both these questions together. I wanted to ask you about what it's like to rap live, but I also know that you had a really good trip this year. And I want to know if you could talk to the audience about where you've been this year.
Yeah, man. So, well, I'll take it back a step. You know, for the last decade, right, all I wanted to do was this hairline brother shit. But Dro just wasn't ready to go for whatever reason. He had some other things going on in his life. And so I did some other projects. And so I put out a EP called PBS with my man D-Phrase. And I also put out something called Cattle Guard with my man Chairman Chow. And Chairman Chow, that's my dog. He's a really talented guy, videographer, producer. And he hit me up, I guess at the beginning of the summer and said, hey, we're doing a little Euro trip. Like, do you want to get on the bill here? So he put me on and we went out and performed in Barcelona and performed in Amsterdam. And that was ill. And I hadn't performed in a while. Like I had, you know, years ago, I used to be the guy who would go out there and set up the shows. You know, like I've always been the kind of like front man in that regard where I didn't have any problem just walking in and just setting shit up. I'm gonna talk to the guy, whoever runs the bar, whoever does the booking here. I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna set the show up. I'm gonna call up the acts. I'm gonna work the door. I'm gonna do everything. You know, and that's a lot of work. And I got sick of that. So I stopped doing that. And I said, whatever. If someone calls me and they want me to perform, I'm happy to. But I just don't have the time. Right. Well, so I got the phone call from Chow, and he had done the legwork, and so we went out there, and it was. Like I said, I hadn't performed in a long time, so I didn't really know if I had it. And also, some like all my more recent work is like duet work. It's me and Dro, you know? And so like these songs are built to be performed with two people on stage. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, but it went really well. It turns out I still got it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I really put it down. I was out there with my man, Chef Bogey, incredible producer from out here in Boston. He's doing a lot of really good work now. Shout out to my man, Eddie Money. From San Diego, he was out there chilling with us, and then with Chow, and we hit these spots and had a really good time. Shout out my man Pepe from Italy. He's the promoter who got all that going, and it was just a good time, just hanging out there. And
how do you feel like you were received? Like how did?
Well, I think everyone, you know, I think that my talent shone through, you know. Because it's tough when people aren't familiar with your music. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do up on this stage to set myself apart from any other dude who's just rapping a bunch of stuff that you can't really understand? You don't really get the vibe, you know? So I just had to make sure that I was able to really bring the hook out, you know, and to get people involved with the hook. And then when it was time to rap, just rap my ass off.
Now, I'm going to shift us a little bit, but it's actually going to be, I think, almost like a perfect segue. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to, I use CDs. I know nobody else does anymore, but I do.
Yeah, I do.
And I love them, and I'm always going to like them. But I remember the Methadone Myles concept record that you did, it seemed like. I was wondering if you could speak to that record and then also segue into your work.
Sure.
That might be a perfect segue.
It's
actually.
weird, man. It's weird. Like I'm starting to believe more and more in manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's you got to be careful what you put out there, because it might turn out to be a reality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but so I have, you know, I mean, first and foremost, we both know this from our work, but like the issue of our time is the opiate crisis, right? This is the issue that has affected our generation and younger, right? From Gen X to millennials to even to like Gen Z, like this is the issue of our time. And so when I first got together with my man Chairman Chow, like I had this idea already circulating in my head, like, okay, I want to do a project about what goes on out there in the streets in this regard, because I knew a lot of people who had been out there, and I'm just like, you know, this is, you know, drug rap is a whole subgenre into itself, right? Drugs are ubiquitous in rap, but it's always from the dealer's perspective. Almost always.
Right. That's a great point.
And so I wanted to tell these stories not in a way that glorified it, but just in a way that just like illustrates like what life is like for someone who's out there struggling with it. So I did this project. We were able to squeeze like 5 songs out of it, you know, and then when it was done, it was like, all right, well, what do we do with it? You know, because it's kind of, I don't know what the word is, but like it's subject material. It's like almost like it was like experimental to a certain degree. Like no one does that. But I did. No one does that. And what Chow did, and the way that he laid the backdrop for it, and the way that we did the legwork for it, you know. So we decided that we're just going to press up CDs. We're going to sell these CDs. All the money is going to go to charity. It's going to go to the charities that do the things that that keep people alive out there. So we gave all the money to healthcare for the homeless and the Pine Street Inn.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man. And then so boom, I do that, right? And you know, we both are helping professionals. You know, we do stuff. We've chosen careers to help people. You know, we both could have probably been investment bankers,
right,
or some bullshit. You know what I mean? Stockbrokers. We easily could have chosen to do something parasitic, and instead we decided to give back. You know, so I'm just doing my thing. I'm working and just bouncing from here to there. I'm like, but at the end of the day, when you do this kind of work, you need to advocate for yourself and figure out how to get paid, because there's a million organizations out there that are willing to take advantage of your bleeding heart, you know, and pay you nothing to do some of the hardest work. And so what happens is, like, all of a sudden, like, dropped into my lap was the opportunity to work in the field, to work in the recovery field.
Because the thing I love about that EP is that if I've always felt like I've heard it right, it's the character in the story is struggling in the beginning significantly, and then really by the end, the character is like working towards his recovery.
We had to give it a story arc.
Yeah, it was. I have to tell you, like I sort of knew you were doing this when you were telling me about it, but the more I got into it and was really listening to it, like on a regular basis, because I would just have it in my car and just go,
you got to see
just would go over and over and over again. I was like, wow! I was like, this tells an amazing story of it, and it's just to say this for everybody, it is super real. I mean, it is like there's no there's no soft parts of it. It's all like very, very brutally direct, and it's all very realistic, I think, you know. And actually I felt like I learned a lot even from some of the stuff that you were talking about. And I thought that was great. I also know that, you know, you've alluded to a little bit just now about, you know, what we do, and it would be important for me to say. So Andrew and I used to work together, for what was about a little over a year, I guess, or something, right?
Like a year and a half.
Something like that. Yeah. And, so you're a licensed social worker?
Correct.
And, if you could talk a little bit about, what you do right now, and what do you enjoy the most about it?
I just, the part I enjoy the most about it is the interpersonal piece. You know, I really love all the people I work with and the people I work for, you know, people that we serve. Never a dull moment. But yeah, I work in the recovery field, you know, in a residential capacity. Residential has always been like my, I won't want to say my passion, but like I operate well in that field, you know, because I've had a lot of interesting experience working in residential. I got to work under people who were really good at it,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned from them. And so now it's like kind of second nature, you know. And so, yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because the project that you mentioned, right, the Methadone Myles project, it was born out of just feeling like this needs to be told.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is something that needs to be addressed, and like now that's how my work feels. Like this is important. It needs to be addressed. I get compensated well enough for it, you know, and I don't know. It just feels right. You know what it is, man. When you just show up every day and you're like, yeah, this feels right. There's nothing about this that feels like, oh, I'm a cog in like just a really shitty system,
Mm-hmm.
or it doesn't feel redundant, or like, what's the point of this?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine if you were just like, your job was just to sell some sort of useless junk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's money to be made there.
Mm-hmm.
And you got this whole thing on how you would convince people to buy this junk that you know they really don't need.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be particularly useful to them. It's going to be obsolete in a little while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have this creeping feeling like, yeah, this kind of sucks. I kind of suck. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I never have that feeling. I don't ever have that. So it's you know, I feel like I give a lot, but I get so much back.
You know, just for us to wrap up, because this has been a great interview,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew some of the stuff that you're talking about, and then there's a lot of stuff today I feel like I've learned that I didn't know before, which is great. So I'm psyched that we had all this time to talk today. In the recovery field, I guess what I wanted to know is to see if you had any thoughts about having hope for people who are getting treatment. Do you ever feel like, oh my God, this is such an insurmountable problem, I don't know how we're ever going to get this? Or do you ever feel never?
I
Okay.
never feel like that. I never feel like that because the formula is there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the formula might be a little bit different for everyone, but it's like when you are ready, it's there for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very lucky here in the state that we have, well, I mean, we got hit pretty fucking hard,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but like so we're not lucky in that regard, but luckily like the state apparatus responded better
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of places. I don't want to say it responded fully correctly, but there is a pathway, and most people know about that pathway. And then when you get there, it depends on how ready you are
Mm-hmm.
to completely set aside your own desires and self-will and just be guided. But if you're ready for that, it's right there for you. I've seen so many people come through and have success.
That's awesome.
So I always feel like everyone has a chance when they walk through that door.
I couldn't possibly end this interview on a better note than that.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for everything today. I appreciate it a lot.
Okay.
And this has been a great interview with my friend Andrew. And this is the Everyone's Interesting podcast show. And thanks for paying attention and listening in. Thanks so much.